Welcome to Vialet Studio, where Vialet and her guests share stories of their passions, inspirations, and spiritual journeys. Vialet creates a sacred and fun space for individuals to be able to share information about themselves, their work, and their community. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet. Vialet Rayne.
Welcome to Vialet Studio. Thank you for joining us today. I have Suzie with us. Miss Nikki met her, and I probably was with her at Body, Mind, and Spirit. So we were really excited to invite her on the show, which means she's local to Denver. So those of you that are listening here in town, she is actually in Colorado, which sometimes we interview people all over the place. So it's always nice when we get to have a few local people on the show. So Suzie, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honestly so excited to be here and be with you today. Thank you.
Well, I love your background. How beautiful is that with your flowers?
Thank you so much. I've always been a little more kind of like magical and kind of like, I love the lights and I love flowers and like sparkles. So, and I know you're similar in terms of like, you really love aesthetics clearly by your beautiful studio. So.
Well, I love sparkles. I just gave one of my employees the title. She's the Wizard of Sparkles. She's our supervisor at our center. So we gave her the title at the center as Wizard of Sparkles. So if you guys come in and Miss Jackie's there, she's our Wizard of Sparkles. So I understand sparkles totally. She keeps us all happy and lively and brings lots of joy. So I can see that with you as well. So share with us a little bit about your spiritual journey. What led you to where you're at today and what you offer? What was that journey for you?
It was quite a journey. As I think we were talking about before, you can connect the dots back to earlier in your life that lead up to your spiritual awakening, right? So as a child, I was always empathic. I was very sensitive, and like the world just felt so overwhelming to me. So what I would do in my safe place is I would just go to my desk where I would just create things. Like I always channeled a lot of ideas and art and creativity to kind of like escape from this like intense, overwhelming world. And as I progressed kind of like through my childhood and my teenage years, I started having kind of like deeper core issues become more apparent that would lead to my awakening. I was bullied in school. I was really overweight. And that definitely knocked like my self-confidence down. I had issues with self-esteem. And, you know, I also grew up in the 90s, and I think parenting was a bit different in the last century, where love was given through money and being taken care of financially, and not necessarily through like warm, fuzzy love. So I also kind of lacked this feeling of being worthy and lovable. So those kind of compounded as I went through my teenage years, as I was in my early 20s, and that kind of manifested as me living this very egocentric life where everything I did was to get love from people or validation. So a lot of people pleasing, a lot of like imbalanced, toxic romantic relationships. I was kind of spiraling more into partying, which is really unhealthy for me. But the cool thing is I did spend my 20s, I would spend a year working and spend a year traveling throughout the world. So that was very cool. Like traveled to India. I lived in Korea for a year. I lived in Australia. I lived in England for 3 years. But like I was saying, it's like your issues compound until you really hit a rock bottom. So my rock bottom was when I was 26. I was traveling through South America, but I felt so hollow inside. Like I didn't know my purpose. I was just partying a lot. My validation was completely through other people at this point. So it just felt so hollow and worthy. And I kind of reached this point where I was like, you know what? Like I kind of give up. Like not necessarily like suicidal, but just being like, I have no purpose. I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this life. I don't know how to heal. I'm just going to like let go. I'm just going to live my life. And if my lifestyle will consistently be like this traveling and working thing, then so be it. At least I'll like see the world. And that, I think, really opened me up to transformation and energetic transmission that would come through me. Now, my spiritual awakening happened when I was in Peru. I was in the Andes, which is obviously a very sacred place. The energy there is insane, so strong. My friend was visiting me from England, and we used to like party together. So we're like, let's do ayahuasca. It'll be so fun. It'll be like old times. So synchronistically, I had met a girl a month before in a hostel that told me she had an incredible experience with this British shaman who is practicing in this small town in the Andes called Pisac. And there's no way I would have found this guy. Like, he doesn't have any like business page or anything. He just like this guy Paul on Facebook. So at the time when my friend and I were looking for a shaman, I was like, oh yeah, this girl mentioned this guy Paul. I'll just like message him, whatever. So we set it all up. We go to this tiny town, like literally tucked in this huge valley with like Incan ruins, like on top of one of the mountains. So just like the energy of this place was so strong. So my friend and I showed up at this ayahuasca ceremony, and the shaman Paul, he kept on talking about connecting with different spirits and making sure we're protected. And he mentioned his experience as a shaman interacting with like gnomes and fairies and telling these crazy stories. In my head, I was like, this guy is absolutely crazy, but whatever, we're just gonna have a good time. So he spent the first hour of the ceremony just we invoked together, we did prayer, very strong intention setting. He did a lot of energetic techniques to shield us and protect us during the ceremony. And again, in my head, I'm like, wow, this guy's crazy, but it's cool. So we had the ceremony, and it was very powerful, but nothing like crazy happened yet. So after the ceremony, my friend and I went back to our hotel room. She was asleep in her bed, and I was still in my bed, still kind of like tripping on the experience. And I had this, like, it was like in an instant, I had this feeling that like, oh my God, this is real. Like the fairies, the gnomes, like the different dimensions, these spirits, it's totally real. And that was the first time where I also experienced like this inner knowing, this intuition, that's a very energetic kind of understanding of how things work. Before, I just use my mental capacity, use my brain, use logic to understand something. First time I experienced this like deep, like energetic knowing. So after that, like nothing was the same again. I spent the next month in South America devouring like all kinds of spiritual texts, healing books, channeling books, books on angels, just literally had like 20 books on my Kindle, devouring this information, so hungry for it. And my original goal on that trip was to travel up through South America, through Central America, and go back to the States. And I had this feeling like, no, I need to go to India. So I changed my flights. I booked a flight to India, went there. And I don't know, Violet, have you been to India?
No, I've never been out of the United States except the Caribbean. So I'm fascinated. Keep going. This is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, if you ever go, it's very spiritual. The energy is very intense. And it has like this huge like polarization. Like you can in one day you can experience the most horrible stuff you've ever seen in your life, and you can have the highest highs ever in like one day. Very intense country. So I spent 6 months there, kind of allowing myself to like experience this spiritual journey I was on and really allow myself to explore. So I spent the first month in a yoga teacher training, which is very cool, but it wasn't necessarily going to be my modality or how I help bring light to the world. However, of course, a teacher in that teacher training was one of the biggest Reiki teachers in the city I was in, Rishikesh. So I was like, oh, I want to try Reiki. So I studied with her for 2 months, doing Reiki level 1 and 2, and that was amazing and fantastic. And I love that. But from her, I never necessarily got explanations of like the energy body, energy anatomy, like what exactly is a chakra, things like that. So I started Googling things like just trying to understand, how does this work? Like, how does healing work? And I kept on getting answers from Pranic Healing websites. So that was kind of a ding, ding, ding in my head of like, okay, I need to check out this modality. So I found the last 3 months of my journey there, I studied with an older Indian couple that had this awesome healing like course that covered some aspects of pranic healing, also used mudras for healing, yoga asana for healing, mantras for healing. Like they had all these interesting ways to heal basically that they taught. So I love that, and then took kind of my healing and my understanding of how energy works to the next level. But I was like, kept on feeling drawn to this pranic healing, this modality. So I decided like, okay, when I go back to the States, I'm going to take official classes. So I finally went back to the States and really started investing in taking the pranic healing courses in the States. But it's just funny. It's like my spiritual awakening happened, but that was still the beginning of my journey, because from when I was taking classes to where I am now as a full-time healer, I had to bust through so many limiting beliefs, really busting through so much unworthiness, feeling like it's not possible for me to do this, busting through a lot of limiting beliefs around, oh, you can't make money as a healer. So it really took me almost 5 years to get to where I am now, just from limiting beliefs and the narratives I had in my head. But yeah, that's the overall story.
I love that. Well, and it's so true. Many healers today believe they shouldn't be paid for what they give, right? We have these conversations all the time at our center where people come in and go, it's a gift, you should give it for free. And I go, I understand where you're coming from. However, how much money have we invested in training? How much time do we invest in, perfecting our skills, right? It's no different than going and getting a college degree where you invest time, you invest money, you research, you dig deeper. What does that mean? Where does that go? It is the same type of profession. And I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of money in classes and books. I have 2 libraries of books that are 5 cases wide of all these books that I've bought and devoured and looked at and read. And then I love connecting points. Oh, this is over here, and it's over here, and it's over here. And how do we connect, right? So I don't just go take a class and sit it on the shelf. I'm kind of like you. I go take a class, and then I have 25 more questions. Like, where did this come from? And where did you get that number from? And where is that thought process at? And where did it originate? And so I'm the scholar that digs really deep, because I want to know, where did it come from? Where did you get that concept? Yes, if you channeled it, that's great. But is there a book? Do we know where it originally came from? Did more than one person channel the same information, right? Because then that, to me, gives it a little more validity. And I know it's hard, because it's very hard to scientifically prove some of the stuff that we do. Some of it's coming out now where there's scientific measurement to what we're doing, and more of that's being revealed, because I think in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to see more evidence where they're going to be able to measure it scientifically. But we're not totally there yet, right? We're all still learning. So why shouldn't we get a fair exchange for what we're doing, right? And so there are a lot of limiting beliefs. And so anyone that's doing healing or anyone that you go to for healing, the one thing I would say is, are they healing themselves? Are they doing their own work? Because I know a lot of healers that are seeing clients that aren't necessarily still peeling their onion because they think they're done, and we're not ever done. We're not ever done healing. Because when we heal ourselves, we can heal our family, our ancestors. There's so much there. So much. So Suzie, I have a question for you. What was the difference for you from like Reiki to pranic healing? How are those different? What have you seen in the difference? Or, what drew you to that, to go a little deeper into that?
Yeah, great question. I also want to say you made so many good points as well. Oh my God, like everything you were saying, I was like, yes. So Reiki, I just want to say first off, like Reiki is an incredible modality. They're just different. They're both similar in that you channel life energy through you. You channel this life energy into your client. So that's a similar thing. I would say the Reiki I learned, so I can't speak for all modalities, and I did learn this in India, so standards are a bit different there, but the Reiki I learned was much more like meditative, like very just connecting to the crown chakra and just letting go, and just being a channel, and kind of like I would just let my mind go and trust that the energy would go where it needs to go when I was working on each chakra. For pranic healing, it combines the spiritual, intuitive aspect with a more scientific, experimental mindset. It feels more masculine, actually. So the founder of Pranic Healing, Grandmaster Choa Katsui, he spent his life, his goal was to find an energy healing modality, create a system of it so that it's easily learned by people, and also have protocols that you can follow for different diseases that can be replicated on each person. So he spent years working with high-level clairvoyance, and he also opened up healing centers in the Philippines to have people come in. They would have ailments, and he would experiment trying to create a systematic form of energy healing. And then the high level clairvoyants would look and say, what's happening to the physical body, what's happening to the mental body, the emotional body when he's doing this, what are the chakras doing? And so they basically spent years developing these protocols. It's like a recipe book, like step 1, you do this, step 2, you do this, step 3, you do this. For like, you have like a cancer protocol, a diabetes protocol. You also have psychological protocols like for stress, for depression, etc. So I liked that more masculine energy to help bring down, like you're saying, you want to validate these spiritual concepts, and a lot of them can be validated, but you have to really use your mind and you have to bring it down instead of just trusting. And another concept in pranic healing is don't trust anything until it's validated, like what you're saying. And in pranic healing, we learn to activate our hand chakras, so you can scan energy and you can feel what is this energy like, what is the state of the energy body, what is the state of the chakras, so you can validate everything, which I really liked. And it also allows the modality to further evolve because you can do experimentation, like, with anything, like out in nature, on someone else, like on objects, like you can just experiment with this energy and then validate with your hands is like the first step. But Reiki has its place, and I definitely believe that clients are attracted to whatever modality their soul needs. So some people will come to me for pranic healing, some people will be attracted to you, and whatever they're attracted to, they will get the healing they need. Yeah.
I like that, because there is so many different types of healing, right? I think the last time I looked, there's 70 different types of Reiki.
Wow.
It's a lot, right? You know, there's shaman Reiki, there's dragon Reiki, there's fairy Reiki, there's Karuna Reiki, there's traditional Reiki. And I know even with me, I am a Reiki master by 3 different teachers, and non-traditional, traditional. I also am a fairy Reiki master. I'm also a Karuna Reiki master, and I'm also an angelic Reiki master. I must like Reiki, but you know, and they're all different, right? Each one is completely different in its form and process and how you use it and how the energy feels, you know, and so I get that. And then you have healing touch practitioners. There's just so many. Theta healing, which I've started doing recently. So there's just all kinds of different types. And I agree with you, depending on the person, what is their soul drawing them into? And you kept finding all this information on pranic healing that kept pulling you in, which is the path you were supposed to go, right? And you have to pay attention to those signs. I mean, how many people are listening where spirit keeps popping up the same commercial, same ad, same website, same person, and you've seen it how many times? I mean, I hear people all the time say, well, when I see it 3 times, it means I'm supposed to pay attention. Well, really, you were supposed to pay attention the first time and the second time. The third time, they're trying not to bang you over the head to get you to pay attention, right? And we've all seen that. Whereas Spirit's trying to guide us if we'll just really be aware and pay attention to what's happening around us.
Absolutely. And that process in itself is such an incredible unfolding. And I think it takes a while, like from your spiritual awakening, you're shifting paradigms, like in the kind of the mainstream normal 3D like reality, like we react to things that happen to us and there's no such thing as other dimensions. And you get your value from your intellect. Like the mind is prized, the development of the mind is prized over emotions, over the heart. So it takes a while to really trust this new paradigm. I'm still going through the process where I'm trying to have more faith on my journey and also trusting, well, like you're saying, if I have a huge desire to do this one step and it doesn't make any sense, should I still do it? And I'm experimenting, being like, okay, I'm going to do this, even though it doesn't make sense financially. It doesn't really make sense with my plan of what I'm doing, but I'm going to trust that and see what happens. And I also say, like, have fun with it to people who are listening. Like, treat it as like a game, a really playful game, and see like what happens when I do trust my intuition. Where does it lead to? Because usually you'll meet this person that will take you to this person, which will open up this door. It's like such a winding road. Yeah, right now I'm really struggling with, like we're talking about money earlier, really struggling with money fears and survival fear coming up. And so when I have an event coming up where I have to pay something, I'm like, it doesn't really make sense financially, but I'm also playing with, well, I want to do this. I feel drawn to this. So screw the financial part. Like I trust it's going to work out for me. And that's been super healing. And it's a process. Yeah.
It takes a lot of trust, right? Just takes trust to step in. And I think sometimes Spirit's wanting us to learn that process of trust, that we're okay, that it's safe, right? What is the worst thing that can happen? Well, I've rebuilt my life at least 3 times from the bottom up. I mean, I can do it again. The worst thing that can happen is I hit the bottom again. I've been known to rebuild it in a totally new direction and better than it was before. But we have these fears in us that, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And so you just got to trust and know that, you're very supported on your journey. And so just step in and trust, and it'll work out. So very cool. So you have to come to my center and see all the fairies, because you were talking about fairies. I have 33 fairies that live in my center, and they have homes and villages all throughout the center. And so you can come and find all their doors and their homes and their areas, and they have stories. Every one of them has a story, and so we tell the stories of the fairies. So they definitely live. And for people that have never experienced fairies, I have practitioners that work at our center that don't believe in fairies, and it doesn't take very long till they start seeing them, and they're like, yeah, they're real. They run across the floor. We can see them of a night when we turn the lights out, scurrying across the floor. We've had people see them as light flashing across the floor as they run into their doorway. So they're definitely there. So when you come to visit, come with an open mind to see the fairies, so you'll get to see them all. We have all kinds. We have a fairy that has a tea house, and she serves tea. We have a postman fairy that delivers the mail in the center for the fairies. We have a Christmas house fairy that helps with all the Christmas planning in the center. So there are stories with all these fairies. So you'll just have to come and check out our fairy world at our center and what all they do.
That is super sweet. I do love fairies, and I'm not clairvoyant. I have more of like a clairsentience and a claircognizance. So I've never seen fairies, but especially living in Denver, we have such incredible nature around us. And going on hikes, sometimes I'll see like this, I'll feel like really strong energy coming from a really beautiful part of the forest where there's like little wildflowers and stuff. And I'm like, there's definitely some fairies there. Like there's beings there. I feel it. I feel something there. So there's so many ways to like sense them. So I would love to come, and I would love to say hi to the fairies.
Yeah, you'll have to. They have a tire swing, and they have a tree house, and I'm all the time buying stuff for the fairies. My husband's like, how much stuff do you need? I mean, we have a whole village set up for them, and I continue adding doors and homes for them. So they keep coming in. So my little gifts to the fairies. So I love my little fairies. So you'll have to come and see them. So tell us, if somebody wanted to connect with you, what are some of the things that you offer, and how would they be able to do that?
Absolutely. So my big offer is I offer a safe, loving, powerful 6-week container of deep mental and emotional healing for women called the Deep Healing Transformation. So it's created for women who are struggling with healing and overcoming negative issues like anxiety, fear, low self-esteem, trauma, grief, or mental issues like negative thinking and limiting beliefs that are holding them back from living their most free, expansive, joyful lives. So within that 6 weeks, I offer 2 pranic healing sessions a week through Zoom, Voxer support, and access to powerful tools for self-healing that women can use even after the program to sustain results of feeling more calm, relaxed, confident, joyful, and powerful. So I wanted to create an intensive, intimate container of healing for women to really get the results from the tools that I still use today to help me on my journey. So you can learn more about that by going to my website, www.rainbowspirithealing.com. I'm also very active on Instagram, TikTok, and I have my own YouTube channel, all under Rainbow Spirit Healing, where I offer like short pranic healing tasters that you can connect to and receive healing energy.
I love that. I love the rainbow spirit. That fits you. Sparkles all around, right? I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. Well, this has been so amazing. So thank you for taking the time to spend with me today. I have really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you at the expos or around, so that I can say hi again. So
Thank you so much for having me, Violet. It's been so wonderful, and thank you for all the work you do, and I definitely look forward to connecting.
All right, I love that. Well, thank you for those watching today. Thanks for watching Vialet Studio. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet and how she can help you discover your spiritual gifts, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com and on YouTube at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Come experience the difference at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.